Yo, 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 welcome to debate night, or debate morning, I guess. We've got Jay Klaus in one corner, and we've got Jordan Godbey in the other corner. Wanted to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. If you have not muted your microphones, please do so. You may throw tomatoes ringside. That is permitted, but otherwise, please keep interventions to a minimum. I did want to thank the undercard of today's fight, Chris Rock and Will Smith from last night. That was very impressive, and that was unanticipated, but very much appreciated. And so I wanted to start off by thanking each and every one of you for being here. My name is Justin Moore, founder of Creator Wizard, where I help you find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. The reason we are here is because a fight broke out between some friends. Jordan said that I should be transitioning my free newsletter into a paid offering. And I wanted to start today off by explaining a little bit about the dynamics of my newsletter. And then I'm going to give the floor to Jay and to Jordan to make their case. So first and foremost, let me share my screen. As a little bit of background, let me share the landing page of my newsletter right here. So this is my newsletter, and so essentially what I do with my newsletter is I will send you paid sponsorship opportunities. Like literally, I will send them to your inbox every single week. Okay, so I've got about 3,200 creators on my newsletter right now. I started it about almost 2 years ago. It's grown pretty significantly over that time. About 2,000 creators joined within the last 6 months. So it's starting to pick up pace. And basically, in addition to, let me just switch over and share here. So this is a quick example of what my newsletter looks like. So every week, I will share at the very top some new content, an interview, a YouTube video, a blog post, and so on. Sometimes I'll have some sponsors here, but then here is the meat of right now. So typically what I'll do is I have a section of my newsletter where I will do every single week extremely detailed research on 5 brands that are sponsoring influencers at that given time. So the way in which we do this is we reverse engineer it. We see a creator or an influencer who just got sponsored by a brand, and we'll reverse engineer it. We say, okay, well, clearly that brand is sponsoring creators or influencers. We'll go and we'll look on LinkedIn. Who's the likely influencer marketing manager? What's their LinkedIn URL? What's their email address? Pitching angles, right? Like what could you actually say to them? And so if you have not referred another creator to my newsletter, this content is locked. Okay, so the only way to get access to it is by sharing, and this is powered by Sparkloop. The only way to get access to it is by sharing your link with another creator. Okay, and quick little insight here is that I have had quite a few creators try to get access to this by signing up with their alt email. So their Yahoo instead of their Gmail or something like that. So this is clearly like something that people want. And so Jordan and so let me quickly share what this looks like. So when it's unlocked, this is what it looks like. So it's like 5 brands, the name of the person, the LinkedIn URL, the email address, why they're the likely brand contact, pitching angles, like I mentioned. So it's like really valuable stuff. And lots of people have gotten they've gotten sponsorships from this research that we're doing. Okay. And so in addition to the secret research we're doing every week, I share tons of sponsorship opportunities, links where you can just click on it and actually apply. And hundreds of creators have gotten brand partnerships from these links. So basically I have access to so many deals I've been in this space for a really long time. So I just like curate them all and put them into the newsletter. Okay, so that's the context. It's like, and so basically, I'll let Jordan kind of talk about why he thinks this, but like this is how it all started. Is Jordan said, "Hey, like this is way too valuable to be a free newsletter," and then again, like my concern has always been that like I'm not monetizing through the newsletter itself. Yeah, sponsorships and stuff, but like I primarily have courses. I have 2 courses, a cohort-based course and then an evergreen course that's coming out where I teach creators all about brand sponsorships, and then consulting. I do one-on-one sessions and things like that. And so my logic has always been like, oh, well, just grow the email, grow the top of funnel on my free newsletter, and then, that'll trickle down to lower funnel conversions and things like that. And so Jordan had a very interesting argument, which is like, hey, maybe we should think about this a little bit different way. So that's the context. Let me know in the chat. Drop it in the chat. Is that helpful context? Anyone confused? We've got Kyle tuning in. Jay is saying hi, friends. Helpful for me, to be honest, said Jay. Gil said if there's no blood spilled, I want a refund. Wow, this is getting intense real early. Okay, so with that, I'm going to give the floor to Jay to make his opening arguments.
Sorry, I was sassing in the chat. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I actually didn't have that context coming into this. I just saw that Jordan had said, make this a paid newsletter. And I said, let me argue against that. Mostly because I argue against most paid newsletters and a lot of paid projects in general, to be honest. My thought here, Justin, my biggest driving force as to why I'm starting from a place of let's not monetize that. You had this great thread on Twitter recently where you said, I just passed 3,000 creators on my newsletter, started 21 months ago, 2,000 joined in the last 6 months. Here are 10 changes I've made to help you grow faster. And a lot of what you're pointing out in that post, in that argument, for the reason that you're growing a lot faster in the last 6 months, is this newsletter that is free. So, to put a gate on it is going to slow that growth, which has a downstream effect on the 2 courses that you are putting out, even other free content that you're doing, because anyone that gets in your email list is going to become more aware of your YouTube channel, TikTok, all of these things. And you mentioned, your big offer, or the main offer for joining your free newsletter is this sponsorship opportunities list. And I didn't even realize all the stuff you're going in depth with the research. Even just the free newsletter that everybody can get by signing up that gives the sponsorship opportunities. That's really valuable. That's very differentiated as well. We just in the community, the Creative Competing Club, we're doing a sprint on high converting sales pages and landing pages. And I believe one of the most valuable ways or most effective ways you get people to sign up on a landing page or a sales page is to have something differentiated that's very, very high value. That is something that you could sell and choose not to. And I think you've found yourself in a position doing that right now. And you've already proven that you are willing to do this for free for the benefit of the rest of your business. And a lot of the reason why people may choose not to do something for free is that it feels unsustainable or not fun, or like they don't like doing it. And you've already proven that you're willing to do that hard work of maintaining this bar of quality for free. And I think that is valuable and will stand out and will continue to bring people in.
We got Dan Bennett in the chat said, Jay coming out of his corner strong. Yeah, I also agree. Great work. Let's bring Jordan up to the floor here.
Jay, come on, man. I mean, good opening argument, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be just one or the other, okay? So Justin is paying a lot of money, investing a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of energy to create this newsletter totally for free, right? And he's essentially giving away money, giving away opportunities that everyone can just come in and immediately go get sponsorship deals. Now, they're not getting his, you could argue, most valuable offering, which would be learning how to go from like a 1K sponsorship to a 10K sponsorship per post. That's huge ROI. That's his cohort-based course. But he is giving them tons and tons of opportunities and at bats. I would argue that he's giving so much value away that you might not even need to move deeper into his ecosystem, right? And into his other courses and things. But what I would argue is that you can continue with the free newsletter, which is giving away training content, the free opportunities, his YouTube content, which is also really valuable, really good. But then why not offer a premium tier for people who want more and to go faster? And so instead of the refer to a friend and get access to that stuff, which we've already seen people are gaming, they're not really doing it. They're just trying to like hack it and get the free stuff anyway, which isn't benefiting Justin and it's not really growing his list. What if they paid $99 a month? Because he's not just handing them information, he's handing them revenue generating opportunities every single week. And so you could justify that one of those paid sponsorships could easily be $100 to $1,000. and he's giving them multiple away every single week. So I think $100 a month for a paid newsletter that is actual opportunities, job opportunities essentially, is more than worth it from an ROI perspective. And if we just do some really quick math, so let's just say he has 3,000 people on the newsletter. If 2% of them converted to the paid offering, and so they're paying $100 a month, you're at 60 people. So he's already at 6,000 a month. And so now he has a new revenue stream that fills all the gaps in his yearly calendar where he's not running his cohort-based course. And then, I don't know how much one-on-one consulting he wants to keep doing, but that's also not scalable. This is a totally scalable stream. So he's going to continue to grow the free side, and then it's going to pay for itself as people upgrade into the paid side. So I'm sure we're going to keep going deeper into our arguments, but that's where I want to start. Is I think he's giving a ton of value away. I think he can continue to give free value away, but then have a way for people to pay to get even more.
Really strong, compelling argument. Are we gonna? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna allow you a 1 minute
30 seconds
counter
for rebuttal.
30-second rebuttal. Okay.
I don't disagree with that. It's just not what I thought we were arguing. If the question is, the hybrid of keep a version of this newsletter free and then have a second version that's more in depth that is worth being paid for, I could see that. But that's got to be a very intentional decision, because when you have a paid product, a paid newsletter, especially that's going out on a specific cadence, you now have accountability to those paying customers, and you can't just not do it a week or a month if you want to, which is fine. And a lot of people do that. But if it's not something that Justin wants to invite into his lifestyle, then it's not a great option. But I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people, anyone using SparkLoop really, to have hey, refer a couple of people and get access to this for free, or pay this amount of money and skip the referrals. I had that in my newsletter for a while, and it did convert to some degree. But again, now you really have to think of that as this ongoing need you have to service. There's not much flexibility around it. And it's extra work, Could you separate these things out and say, hey, the brand sponsorships remain free, and that's still differentiated value that is worth subscribing to for free, and the brand research is something that has a higher bar, either paid or more referrals? Yeah, because at a certain point, how many alt emails is someone going to come up with? I guess you could just do the j+5@jklaus.com a million times, but I think a line in Justin's email that says, by the way, I see who's subscribing, and I know that you're cheating the system, could curb that to some degree. So yeah, I think there's an argument to be made about a second paid newsletter versus making this lead gen opt in the paid newsletter. But I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking, where's the big money at? And the big money is either in the proprietary products that Justin is developing and driving more people to it, for which you would need more people on the list, which means anything I do to get more people on the list is good. Or at some point, the audience may be so big that it's actually attracted to the advertisers, and the advertisers are the customer as opposed to the creators. Because you can say, I can actually syndicate your sponsorship opportunities to 50,000 creators. It's this price, still free to the creators, that continues to grow that base of customers, which is long-term more valuable to the advertiser, that customer, and Justin, the person, the business owner.
Strong counter argument, Jay. I do want to bring in, by the way, the chat is golden here. I'm loving all this. I did want to share one thing, and I'm going to throw this over to Jordan, actually. Really interesting article from Josh Spector. He threw his tomato in the ring when we were organizing this on Twitter. And he posted this article, which I encourage each and every one of you to check out. I'm going to post the link in the chat. And he said that most paid newsletters fail because they offer more instead of different. And this is kind of what you were describing, Jordan, which was that, okay, maybe the free people get one a month, and then the paid people get more, and then they get the secret intel, the additional research and things like this. So what is your thoughts on offering something completely orthogonal to the free newsletter? And that's so rather than the quantity being, or the cadence increasing, it's actually something completely different.
Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense when it comes to a purely informational newsletter or just like an opinion type or education newsletter, where getting like 4 times as many newsletters of someone's opinions or whatever might not really be that much more valuable rather than a once a month, like really rich email. But I think in your case, again, like you're sending opportunities. So if I'm someone who's looking for brand sponsorships, not every opportunity that you send each week is going to apply to me. I'm not going to be qualified based on my audience or my platform or whatever. So I would think that more opportunities would be better and would translate into more revenue. So in this case, I think more does work for you. But I also agree that something different alongside of it would make it even more appealing. So what I would recommend is by joining the premium membership, whatever you want to call this, you're actually also invited inside of the community where then you can be discussing these things and potentially getting like feedback from you or a feedback loop of how it went when the subscriber reached out and got those brand deals or didn't, and be able to actually generate more of ongoing connection inside of the community. So that's a way to solidify the membership and even differentiate it more.
Interesting. Jay, what are your thoughts on this point?
Well, I have a question for you, Justin. If I gave you 5 extra hours per week right now, where would you put it in your business?
Into my email marketing strategy.
Email marketing strategy, because
So to back up real quickly, I believe one of the biggest drivers of the step function increases in enrollment in my CBCs, my courses over the last like 5 cohorts that I've done, has been because I've gotten more and more sophisticated with my email marketing strategy. So for example, I started doing a post opt-in segmentation to the newsletter. So the moment they sign up, there's a 30-second survey that says, hey, number one, what is your biggest goal for this year as a creator? And they'll say, diversifying my revenue streams or growing my audience or whatever. And then I use that data to say different things to them during launch periods. So it's the same course, it's the same product, but I'll say, I have like liquid code in my email where I'll basically say, hey, you told me that your biggest goal this year was growing your audience. And then I said, did you know that as you grow your audience, you need to be very mindful of how you're crafting your creator identity, because that's very important if you're trying to get sponsorships. And then if someone who said diversifying your revenue, I said, hey, you told me diversifying your revenue was your most important thing. Did you know? Yada, yada, yada. So it's the same email, but different code to different people, or different, I'm saying things to different people. And for example, I want to take that approach and have different evergreen sequences depending on how you opt into my email. So I'm going to have a completely different, 3-month, 4-month, 5-month sequence to someone who says something different, based on what their goal is. And so like that, but that just takes so much time. Just like I have like literally 30 things on my list that I want to do with my email that I just don't have time to do. And it's just like being on the hamster wheel of doing the weekly newsletter. And like, because it's so much in depth, again, like to Jordan's point, I'm hiring someone, I'm paying, about $3,000 a month to hire someone to help me curate it. So it's just like, it's money out my pocket, but it's like I justify it because it's like, it's going to lead to course enrollments and things like that too. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
it does. It tells me that you are focused on reaching more people and that you already feel the burn of time. And so to me, that's another argument for keeping this as free as possible to reach more people. But also, I don't disagree that having an orthogonal product is a valid approach for you or any creator, but that's a revenue strategy that doesn't sound like as a big focus for you right now. It sounds like you would rather focus on reach, and adding another paid product with maintenance cost every week or multiple times per month is a pretty big investment of your time that you now have to cover with the revenue generated from that thing, taking into account the opportunity cost. So like I said, I don't think this is necessarily a bad or invalid approach to have an orthogonal paid product. It just doesn't sound like it's aligned with your priorities right now.
Very valid point, and it definitely my my thought process is I've always been, and I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this, Jay, because I know that you have experimented with like lower price workshops and things like that as like an entry point to your business, or like entry point to you, lead generation, this type of thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like I have always been concerned about having too many entry points to my business of like, oh, I don't want like, it's like my course. That's it. That's the only way you could pay me, either consulting or for the last year, it's been just the course. That's all you can do. And so like workshops, I never really charged for anything other than that. And so per that, like what you just said, like that's very, very much resonates with me because that was the idea. But now I feel like I'm shifting into a different mindset now that the newsletter is growing. It's like, okay, well, maybe there are opportunities to monetize this in other ways that could potentially offset the, you know, financial outlay that I'm putting out each month. But you're right. I mean, it does like force me to like devote headspace to this new thing. Even though, you know, yeah, I could probably convert 2 to 3% to upgrade to. I guess the other, Jordan, I want to pull you in here because you had made a point, and I'm curious if you could extrapolate this or expound on it a little bit about how the people who pay for this premium newsletter could be self-segmenting them as like higher quality leads for the courses and consulting.
Yeah. So I think keeping your top of the funnel really simple, and like the way that people get into your ecosystem is by subscribing to the free newsletter. And maybe you don't even talk about how you have a free newsletter and a paid newsletter. It's just like join my newsletter. And that's how everyone gets in. And then as they're getting in, there's a segmentation step, or there's some type of onboarding where like, if you want to go deeper, you want to go faster, you want to get more value, you can become a premium member where you're going to get more opportunities, more help from me in a private community. And that can be trickled into the free newsletter that's going out every so often. But as you were saying on your last cohort, I think you had like under 2% of your subscribers join the cohort, right? Because it's costs nothing to sign up to your email list. You don't have to be qualified. You don't have to really ever look at it. And we all know that there's a certain percentage of our list that are just tire kickers, disqualified people, or lurkers. And so by creating this preliminary step of people who are willing to pay you some amount of money to get value from you on an ongoing basis, you're automatically creating a smaller pool of more highly engaged people that are more serious, and I believe more likely to convert. And so as you start doing your pre-launch marketing for your upcoming cohort, I think you can spend more time and effort on those people and look at having a conversion rate that could be 2x or 3x higher than your mass market pool of your free subscribers. Right. And there's certain things that you could do with those people to encourage them even more, having like a private pre-sale webinar kind of thing, giving them first access. If you are going to cap your cohorts, then letting them be the first ones to buy is more exclusivity and scarcity and all of that great stuff. Maybe you even offer them some type of coupon that offsets the amount that they've been paying for the premium newsletter, save a couple $100 on the cohort. And yeah, I think you're kind of creating a smaller super fan group that's going to be more highly engaged and get better results.
Interesting. Jay, any thoughts?
Again, I think it's a valid strategy. I don't know that you couldn't get a similar filtering mechanism without creating a paid product that you have to maintain, you know, whether it's behavior within the emails, clicking certain things, running a Q&A beforehand, having people register for that, focusing more on them. But I try to think about opportunity costs a lot. You know, I'm talking about maintenance costs, and that makes some intuitive sense of, okay, if I have this thing, yeah, there is time that I have to dedicate to it every week, but it's just a couple of hours. So, you know, why not a couple of hours? What if you're using that couple of hours to spend time on other people's YouTube channels, other people's podcasts, run a free or do some sort of like community workshop on YouTube for free, like using that in service of reach rather than servicing the revenue that you're getting? How much will that compound over time? Because now those people that you're bringing in next month, they have more time to get to know you. They have more time to be referring other creators to your newsletter. It's just compounding. I think the sooner you reach more people, the better for the long term, not just in terms of reach, but also in terms of profitability for the overall business.
The interesting, I want to pull back in a point that you made earlier. And by the way, while we are going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you guys have some questions, please leave it in the chat because we're going to be pulling those in. Dan and Kyle, you guys have been stirring the pot in the chat, and I appreciate that very much.
Very
please
fun.
keep it up. The interesting point around like growing top of funnel and just like list size in general is that I did not expect that monetizing it through brand like sponsorships on my newsletter was ever really a thing that I was going to do. It just more kind of like fell in my lap because I was talking about it on Twitter and a brand DM'd me and they were like, hey, can we sponsor your newsletter? We're trying to like get creators on our affiliate program or ambassador program or whatever. And so it was like very interesting to me. And quickly enough, I'm starting to get more and more sponsors as the list size grows. And so it's definitely like, okay, here's the one interesting point, which is that I'm very intentionally choosing creators as my client, as my customer. I don't want brands or sponsors. That was my agency, which I'm going to be like shutting down at some point here soon. Like that is serving brands. That's serving advertisers. That's like a completely different model. And so it's just like, I feel like I need to keep my client or my customer as the North Star when I'm figuring out whatever my strategy is going to be. So like if my strategy was like, okay, I'm going to monetize this through sponsors and brands and things like that, then like, yeah, I'm just going to keep my foot on the gas of the free newsletter forever because, you know, then I'll get to 50K or whatever, and I'll be able to charge more and more for sponsors to get access to this list of creators. But somehow that feels misaligned with the mission of serving creators. Right. And so does that make sense? Like, I guess that's what I'm struggling with, is because I feel like I want to serve my community, but I feel like if free is the tactic forever, then like, I don't know, I guess the what I'm struggling to articulate is that if I charged for a portion or some orthogonal version of the newsletter, that would allow me to invest in more infrastructure to support my customer even further, my creator customer.
True. But so would more course students. And so would, you know, having these sponsorships in the newsletter that you're heavily filtering. You know, that's not to say that anyone who wants to buy a sponsorship can have it. If you're worried about misalignment or presenting a sponsorship or a brand that you don't actually believe in or think that it's a good deal, you can just say no, you know, especially as you get more and more leverage. You can just be super choosy about who you allow to purchase preferential placement in the email or more space, and still do your own research and due diligence to surface some of the sponsorships that aren't paid that you think are great opportunities. You know, the leverage there is you're not creating new content. You're just building a system that allows to monetize within the existing context of the content you're creating. You know, it's having a form to say, hey, sponsor, if you want to sponsor this, tell me about you. Swipe your credit card here. That can be sent to somebody on your team to put it into the email, or you might even be able to automate some of that, as opposed to having to create new original content multiple times per month.
Jordan, any thoughts?
Yes, I have some thoughts. So we've talked about a few things. We've talked about keeping the business simple. We've talked about entry points into being able to pay to get value. We've talked about things like, you know, doing coaching or doing this like one-on-one. And I think that there's ways that the paid side. The other thing that you were talking about is the time. Where would you spend your time, right? And I think if we realize like he's growing a business, and so the business is getting bigger, it's getting more complex, and you have to make decisions. So if you want to keep it super small and super simple and a single person only, then that's going to drive the different things that you're going to invest in or that you're going to choose to do or choose to not do. But it sounds like Justin wants to grow. He wants to bring on more people and create more infrastructure and more value. And so he's hiring this person already. So at the point where you're investing in a person for $3,000 a month, which I don't know if that's part-time or full-time, but you then start to change your thinking and you want to then maximize that person and what they're able to do and what they're able to contribute. And you want to get a good ROI on that person as well. So I think it starts to become a shift where maybe Justin was doing a few one-on-one calls per week as a way to just continue to work with people outside of the cohorts and make some revenue. But that could potentially be spun down and saying, no, I'm only going to now spend those 3 or 4 hours a week inside the private community of the paying subscribers, the premium members. And so he's not really spending any more time, but instead of spending it with one person, he's now spending it with 100 people who all choose to pay him every single month. And in terms of creating content, you could take one of those videos per week or per month and allow that to be shared with the free list, so that you're now killing two birds with one stone. And they're seeing another reason why they should join the premium side and actually pay, so they could get more access to Justin and more value. But he's not really spending any more time. And once the amount of subscribers reaches a certain critical mass, he's making more per hour doing that than he was doing the one-on-one consulting. So if you think about, like, he's at 3,000 subscribers right now on the free newsletter. Let's say by the end of the year, he wants to get to 10,000, right? I think that's a pretty realistic goal. He could be at potentially still 2% conversion rate. He could have 200 paid subscribers, right? So now he's making $20,000 per month. So he's paying a person $3,000. He's now making 20 grand in this new revenue stream, which is, almost $250,000 a year. That's very significant business just doing that one thing. Many people would love to just have that one income stream doing that one thing, but now it's supporting all of the other areas of his business. I think it's generating content for him. I see it really as a virtuous cycle and not necessarily as a distraction. Maybe it is a slightly more complex. So you have to have some good, planning and structure in place, but I think that's the direction that he's going in. So those are kind of my thoughts on that.
Fantastic. Excellent point. We're going to get into closing arguments here. I do want to mention, if you have a question for the Q&A period, which we're going to get into shortly, please raise your hand in the Zoom chat. I see Kyle's already got a question. I'm going to leave one more point here, which you guys can wrap into your closing arguments, which is that one concern I have about reducing the cadence that I'm messaging people or contacting people is, let's say it's once a month for free people. Is that enough to nurture someone? Yeah, maybe I'll do a pre-launch sequence previous or prior to a course enrollment launch, but like, is it enough in the dead period, basically when I'm not launching anything, to nurture someone once a month versus with free content? Yeah, but without the actual opportunities and things like that I'm sending out every week. That is one other concern that I have, that it's just not enough to show value. So Jay, I'll give it to you, and then Jordan will wrap up with your comments and get to Q&A.
Dearly beloved, we were gathered here today to discuss whether Justin's existing newsletter should be free or transformed into paid, or at least that is the premise in which I thought I was joining. I believe strongly, based on Justin's own stated goals of focusing on email strategy and trying to expand his reach, that the existing newsletter should continue to exist in a free format without removing the sponsorship opportunities that he had. I think there's a valid case to be made about monetizing the newsletter by making the secret research something you only get access to at either a level of investment or referring more creators. I will concede that point. I did not think it was the premise we were here to debate on, though. On the point of free versus paid, I think it makes sense to keep this paid to expand the umbrella. I think it opens up more opportunity space for monetizing in different ways, because the real business here is building an audience who trusts you and is of the same ilk. And what you've built is a really effective funnel that is differentiated, and also has a little bit of a moat, because I don't see a lot of people willing to do the level of work or make the level of investment that you're making to provide this newsletter for free. Justin, to your point about reducing the cadence, I don't think that is a great idea either, because now instead of giving people 52, if this is weekly, 52 touch points of sponsorships, you're giving them 12. And it's more likely that any given sponsorship in those 12 emails, that once per month email, is a little bit stale, and that opportunity or that budget has already been allocated. That is my argument. I also think I'm more handsome than Jordan, and that counts for something.
I was wondering when we'd get to the name calling. I'm glad that we pulled that out towards the end here. Jordan, your response.
Oh, I'm going to be the gentleman. We said no low blows, but Jay doesn't like to follow the rules and has a weaker character than I do. So that's okay. I'll take the high
I'm not saying
road.
you're not handsome. I think you're very handsome. Come on.
Okay. I think my beard is more nicely groomed. Let's go with that. Okay. All right. We're both handsome. Both great guys. Justin, thank you for putting all this together. And this was really fun. Yeah. So I think here's the thing, like in marketing, there is no, this is the way, this is definitely going to work. This is the right way for everyone. This is the best practice. It's a lot about experimentation, and that can be really hard and really scary because like, I don't want to screw up my business. I don't want to screw all my customers and subscribers and get them pissed off or turned away or whatever. But sometimes we have to make these types of leaps and experiments if we want to like hit 2x or 10x growth. And so I think it's an experiment worth having. In terms of attracting the most amount of people to Justin, so a lot of these people are social media people, right? They're influencers on social media platforms. So I think having the biggest amount of reach and awareness and making it as frictionless as possible would be through social media. So I think Justin can double down on having, I mean, he tweets like 100 times a day already. So I don't know how much more tweeting he can do, but maybe if he goes harder on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff and just absolutely kill it in the domain, in the area of his audience. Like they are people on those platforms all the time. So I think that can be his primary awareness engine that's just keeping him in front of people all the time. And he's sharing success and sharing screenshots and sharing, I just got this creator, this sponsorship, or look at these cool thank you messages I'm getting, or look how I'm helping people make money, like all of that kind of stuff. The next step is you get on my free newsletter where I'm going to start to give you opportunities. I also agree with Jay to not decrease the frequency. So I think once a week it should be really the flow. So now they've gone from seeing all this cool stuff on social to being a subscriber. They're getting the opportunities. Then they can go one step deeper to get more research. Maybe, the community side I think would be great because then you're getting access at scale. And then the next step is into the cohort-based course. So in terms of a slippery slope or kind of a value ladder, I feel like that makes a lot of sense and it allows people to step in as they feel comfortable and ready. And yeah, so that's obviously the best approach. So I'll just leave it there.
Wow, I wish I had a bell. I don't have a bell, but I think we went the distance. I'm not sure how many rounds that was, but extremely impressive. And actually, Jordan, you just gave me a really good idea. I'm a big fan of like using the making of the sausage as for content, and so like I'm gonna do a TikTok every week showing what's in the newsletter. I think that's a great idea. I never thought of doing that, but it's just like, oh, this was the, opportunities in this week's newsletter or whatever. And like, hey, if you want this too, go to my bio. So thank you. This all was in service of me. So I appreciate you very much giving me new content ideas. But anyways, thank you so much to both of you it was very helpful and useful. And I saw some people in the chat here mention that this very, very much felt like, should Justin's newsletter be free versus paid versus the argument of, should any newsletter be free versus paid? And so I want to let this Q&A be an opportunity to kind of take it 30,000 foot view of like just general topics and about how this can help other people. And so Kyle, I see your hands raised. You want to unmute yourself? Got a question?
Yeah. So full transparency up front, I also have a 3-year-old that I'm watching, so I may have missed this, but I'm curious about like, and I think this ties into how you could think about free versus paid in general, but you're paying like $3,000 a month to have the free newsletter built. And I'm curious, like the returns on that, like the conversion from the newsletter itself, is it significantly more in paying for that $3,000 a month? See what I'm saying? Like, is the investment worth the return? Or because I feel like that would be part of the decision of going free or paid, is if you're covering your cost.
Yeah, so it's a great question. To take a quick step back, this is not my primary revenue source currently. My wife and I are creators ourselves outside of this. And so we have, you know, the vast majority of our income for our family comes from being creators ourselves and working with brands ourselves and things like that. So this was like this creator wizard side of the business with courses and education for creators was more of a skunkworks project for me that I started about 2 years ago to help people. And it's grown a lot, but I was able to make the investment. In October 2020, I hired Alex Lowell, you may be familiar with him on Twitter, as my content strategist. And I said, hey, I want to become known as the sponsorship guy on social media. And so I pay him every single month. Back then, you know, it's been 18 months now or so, where, you know, Jordan's saying I'm tweeting 100 times a day, but like it was intentional. I was like, I'm going to invest in this. I'm not making money from this yet, but I believe that if I feel like I'm everywhere to people, like I'm just going to go full court press on Twitter and Instagram and content, that will put me in a position in a year to be the guy so I can do courses and do, you know, this stuff that I had this idea that it could be. And so like paying someone to help with the newsletter is like an extension of that strategy. Is like, yeah, I'm not making direct ROI from that. Like candidly, so like my very first cohort of my course, I had 3 creators paying me $1,500. So I have $4,500, right? And my last cohort had 42. So it's like step functions, each cohort, you know, over the last 12 months. And so it's just like, I saw the vision and I was like, if I invest in this, you know, I've been probably invested literally tens of thousands of dollars, and I had literally no ROI for the first however long. And now it's like starting to reap dividends. And so I'm not scared to like invest money and attack if I really do like see the vision. And so, and yet I see Jordan's argument, because it was like, yeah, I could very much easily, I see all these like indicators, like, yeah, people gaming the referral engine to get access, and like people saying on Twitter, I would pay for it. You know, obviously that's different if like, you know, if them actually putting their credit card on the line, but like, part of me feels like the creator, you know, the monetization person in me feels like, yeah, like, charging for this like seems warranted. There's so much value. Like even when I look at the transformations and the outcomes of my courses, I'm probably way undercharging for my course too. I'm charging $1,000. It's gonna be $2,000 next cohort, but like I had someone going from like $2,000 a month from sponsorships, and then they took my course and now they're making $50,000 a month. That was like their testimonial they sent me. I was like, oh, okay, I'm like definitely undercharging for this course. But it's like, you know, so it's just like I don't know. I struggle, like honestly, candidly, understanding like how valuable things are that I'm like producing. I think all of us as creators, it's like we're doing such great work for our audiences, and we just feel like, oh yeah, $10 a month for this membership feels right. And even I'm telling Jay and Azir, I'm like, dude, you need to charge like $10,000 a month for your community or something. So it's just like, I don't know, I don't have it all figured out, but it's a great question. And but I think the short answer is that, yeah, I'm not afraid to like invest in it, even if I'm not seeing a direct ROI.
The return question,
Kyle? Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
The return question on that investment also requires an understanding of like what timeline do you want or need to see the return? Because yeah, if you need to see a return like next month to pay for the funds for the help the following month, then you got to think about that equation. But if you're willing to do this outlay for years without a direct return from that newsletter, other than, you know, the deferred return through other paid products, then that's just an investment decision that could have a much bigger return. You know, like the easiest way to make money is to have money to play with. So yeah, the return question I think is super valid, but it just depends on your time horizon.
That's a great point. Anyone else got any final questions for Jay or Jordan or myself? I honestly, like, this was fun and in jest, but I do think it was like a very, I oftentimes feel like people don't talk about this kind of stuff very often in public, or it's difficult to have conversations like this with people, because it's like shameless plug for Jay's community, but like that he just launched Creative Companion Club. Like, this is the types of things that we're talking about in there, because it's very much like taboo sometimes, I feel like, to share, you know, oh yeah, like it's almost like, oh, like I promised one thing. This is what I feel oftentimes, is that I promised my community one thing, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you this free newsletter, everything, and then it's like if I change anything about that, I feel like I'm breaking my promise that I made to them, and it feels very, I don't know, it feels bad, you know?
Yeah, well,
I don't
that's a drag with making this a paid thing. You know, I've talked to creators who have paid newsletters, and especially if you do like a lot of work to put it together, sometimes you just like want to take a break, but you feel this extra pressure of, well, people have paid for this now, and if it's on a monthly cadence, it's really easy to lose them in like 1 month that wasn't as good, and now their experience with your paid products is, it was good for a while, but then I stopped paying for it, which isn't in service of your other paid products. Like, you want everybody who ever invests in a paid thing that you make to think, this is awesome, and it makes me want to invest in another paid thing by Justin. So again, like, super valid. It's just a big intentional decision that you have to make.
Do you and Jordan, I want to pull you in on this as well, but just like, what do you guys think about it? Let's just hypothetically say, okay, yeah, it's going to be a paid newsletter. What are your thoughts on monthly versus quarterly versus annual billing? So it's like less decision points for someone to qualify, like, oh, like, is this valuable for me or not?
I mean, I'm a big fan of like annual only at this point. And I think it's even easier with something like a paid newsletter. Yeah, that's my thought. And something that Ben Thompson does really good with his newsletter, which I think he does offer monthly. He states up front how many vacation days he's going to take and how many weeks he'll take off for the paid newsletter. So it gives himself some flexibility against what I was just saying, where it's like, hey, even if he doesn't define the exact days, I think he says something like, there will be 3 weeks throughout the year that I will not publish one of these, and I also take off these holidays. So everything is expectations, but I'm a fan of annual only, especially if the people that you're attracting and trying to qualify are people who are going to be getting brand sponsorships that can earn on the level of $50,000 per month. Like, they understand the value of money, and they have some budget to put aside.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I totally agree. Like, the expectations are huge, and giving yourself some breathing room and flexibility so it doesn't feel like you're totally shackled to this super rigid, high pressure commitment is a really, really smart idea. And in terms of the subscription, starting with annual, that's something I've done in the past as well, and think it made things very, very simple. And then if you just are getting so many people that are like, yeah, I really want to, but I can't do the annual for some reason, you can think about doing a quarterly or a 6-month kind of thing. Monthly can get kind of hard because there's just so much volatility and churn in there that you're always managing. So I like the idea of the 1 year, because they're then trying to equate, am I getting enough value over a year, rather than was this month good or not? And then judging their whole perception based on that one experience. Because you were even saying like deal flow is going to come and go, and it's going to fluctuate. So there's going to be like seasonality and just other things. So helping them kind of zoom out their perspective to an annual commitment and trying to get X amount of ROI in a year, I think also takes pressure off you if there's like a month that isn't really that great.
I think also starting with lower expectations, like if you did want to have a paid product beside the free product, I wouldn't go out of the gate saying it's a weekly thing, maybe not even a bi-weekly thing. Like, go out of the gate and say, I deliver one of these per month. It's super high value. It's guaranteed to be, fresh within a matter of a week or something, because you can always ramp up that cadence. And then people feel like this is awesome, as opposed to emailing and saying, actually, every 2 weeks is too much. I'm going to monthly now. Now it feels like a wah, wah.
Love that. Love that. Karaminder, do you have a question?
So may I share screen? Permission to share screen. I want to use a visual aid to help with the question.
As long as it's PG.
It's very PG. Okay. So I'm stealing this from Andrew Barry, where he talks about his course offer pyramid, where kind of like the free content's on the bottom, right? And it goes up, and it's the relative size of market demand on the right. Price goes up on the left. And like, here's like the most recent iteration of what he shares. So do you have something like this, Justin, where you've mapped out where you have the free social content at the bottom, of course, and then the different offerings at different price points?
Yes. So my ladder is the free newsletter. Then my introductory evergreen course is going to be called Gifted to Paid, where I help you transition from getting free product offers from brands to paid partnerships, like kind of that conversion. So that's going to be probably around 200. And then my cohort-based course is going to be 2,000. And then my mastermind, which I'll be ultimately launching, is probably going to be around 20K. So I'm just trying to like map out that's kind of the offer ladder in my mind. Haven't launched like all of it yet, but that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Cool.
Thanks. But yeah, great question. Kyle, did you have another question? I don't know if your hand was raised again.
Yeah, I did. Just on the topic of like, in general, paid versus free newsletters. Do you think there's a space, and I'm asking anyone, do you think there's a space for like a paid newsletter that's not an ongoing thing, like you pay for 4 weeks or something like that? Do you think there's room for that kind of thing?
I love this. I want to say that I really, really love this. Nathan Barry, ConvertKit, has this, which we talk about in my episode of Creative Elements coming out tomorrow. But I love this because this takes away that hook of constantly having to deliver something. So if you do sell a paid newsletter that is like a crash course, one, you can automate it so people can just like actually click through and say, hey, I don't want to wait till tomorrow, just send this to me today, and they can binge through it at whatever the speed they want. But then you can always add to the end of it, and it's just a fun bonus for those people who already paid, which is just this wonderful surprise and delight. And as you add to the end of it, you might decide, actually, for new subscribers, the price is now 50% higher because it's gotten 50% more valuable. I think that's a huge opportunity as a way to, it's just basically a course in a lot of ways, the way that I've thought about it. But there's probably other modalities to use that model. But I love that because then you're off the hook for anything ongoing. You buy it, you get the value. It's completely automated. You can add to it easily whenever you want. And now that just increases the value of the thing.
Love it. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you, everyone. Honestly, this was so much fun. And I actually was thinking about, I might turn this into a series, the Creator Wizard Debate Series. I'm going to bring on different guests, debate different topics, because I don't know. I don't really see anyone having these types of conversations in public, and I have desperately wanted them over the last like couple of years that I've been doing this stuff. And so thank you all for jumping on in short notice. I wanted to thank both fighters, Jay Klaus, Jordan Godbey, for Godbey, sorry, for participating. This was a lot of fun. Let me know in the chat in the next 60 seconds before it closes who you think won. I think it's a split decision. Both fighters came out at it with very compelling arguments. I did believe that I saw a tomato emoji in the Zoom at one point, and that made me very happy. Justin won. Justin definitely, yeah, that's exactly right. We're all winners here, says Caraminder. But thanks everyone. Honestly, have a great week, and I'll share out the recording to this too for anyone who wants to refer to this at a later date. But thanks everyone. It was a lot of fun. Bye.
Thanks, Justin. Good game, Jordan.
Thanks, guys.
Good match.
Good game. Yes.